Ready for liftoff, super in your rocket. Get ready for it. Hey guys and gals, it's me Subadeo Rocket, and around 2014, Namco released Pac-Man Museum, which is similar to their Namco Museum collections where they compile many different Namco classics together, but this time it's everything and anything related to Pac-Man. Well, at least it's more bite-sized adventures. And it makes sense to do something like this since, of course, this is when Ghostly Adventures was making the rounds, leading into newer people getting into the series. So this is a great way for them to be introduced to all of Pac-Man's previous adventures before Ghostly Adventures. And I mean, it's not a totally out there console to have a collection solely focused on one franchise. I mean, Sonic did it like twice in the same console, so hey, why not Pac-Man do the same? So in this video, I'm gonna be talking about not only the collection itself back in 2014, but all the games that were featured within that collection. And when I mean talk, I mean, yeah, just talk because, well, you see, of course, around the time Pac-Man Museum Plus was about to be announced, they delisted the original Pac-Man Museum, which, yeah, it's understandable, but of course that means we're not going to be able to play, we're just going to be talking about what is going on. Hello, it's me challenging Charles. I just returned from my latest interdimensional challenge with a big spaghetti monster against a bunch of chefs, and I heard about your little video, so I want to help out by creating a rift through time and space in order to give you access to the game you want to play. Okay. Alright, let's do it!
Pac-Man Museum.
Oh. Well, with that said, let's get into it. So let's start off with the main menu, and it's honestly a pretty decently looking menu because we got all the extra options on one side of the screen, and we can always move to the other side of the screen to scroll through the list of games featured within this collection. You even got the main cast of Ghostly Adventures within the background of this little menu, even though they do look a bit odd. I mean, Pac-Man is just chilling there. Cylindria is just, I don't know, she looks like she doesn't actually want to be there, but she has to. And Spiral is just like, hey, you gonna play a game? Wanna play a game? You're gonna play a game, right? You can play a game. Play a game. You're gonna play a game, right? But that isn't just some fancy background, no. It's actually part of the main features of this game. Whenever you unlock an achievement within the games featured in this collection, you actually gain a stamp which allows you to gain at least a character or an item or a statue from Ghostly Adventures. And I think this is a pretty cool feature. You got a few characters you might recognize and even some more obscure ones like Ansperia, which of course is a character that only appeared like a few times within the show. So it's very cool how much they put into this. You've got Betrays' doll from one of the episodes, a low textured cereal box of Pac-Man's favorite food. There's a chair that it's for, you know, for Pac Worlders since they're round. It's a round chair. Yeah. You can also look at a lamp. All joking aside though, this is actually a pretty good feature of the game since this allows for not only newer fans to get into the older stuff, but older fans to get into the newer stuff, seeing what exactly this Ghostly Adventures series is all about. And that's especially true since we actually get to see descriptions of each of these characters, items, and statues featured within the items list. Cylindria, Pac's friend who specializes in gymnastics. Spiral, Pac's friend and roommate who specializes in martial arts. Spheria, Pac's aunt. Full stop. Alright then. Alright, enough about the collection itself. We'll get into a bit more detail on what I think of it later. But now, let's talk about the first game within this collection, which of course will be the original Pac-Man. And yeah, it's still Pac-Man and it's still pretty fun. Of course, in case you don't know, for some reason, you have to collect all the dots within the maze to complete it to move on to the next stage where everything becomes a lot more faster. But of course, you gotta avoid the ghosts while you do so. All 4 of them, might I add. And the only way to defend yourself from these ghosts is of course the power pellets that grant you abilities to eat the ghosts when they are turned blue. It's still a very fun concept to this very day, and I personally really like it for the ghost AI because all 4 ghosts of course function differently around the maze, so it is of course fun to analyze and see how their patterns work. But I also mostly really like it because the way they program is technically like they have actual personalities the way they move. Like Blinky always wants to pursue you, and of course Pinky wants to ambush you, Clyde doesn't know what to do and such, and Inky's just all over the place. It's honestly pretty fun to actually talk to the game and actually talk to technically actual people, since you know they technically have, again, personalities. Come on Blinky, don't you dare. I know you wanna, yeah, I know, come on. Pinky, come on, don't, Pinky, I'm watching you. Yeah, Clyde, yeah, let him do what he wants. Don't, no, what? Inky, oh my, Inky, 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 Inky. One thing I really like about this particular version of the collection is the controls. Yeah, it feels really good to control with just the regular control stick, surprisingly enough. It feels very smooth. I thought it was going to be a bit difficult since, of course, you're only dealing with 4 directions, but the response is actually pretty good. So I honestly had a really fun flowing time with this game. And that's really good since this is an Xbox 360 controller and I ain't using this D-pad. Another thing that I really like about this collection version of Pac-Man, as well as all the other games featured, are the amount of options you have within, of course, the game settings to really showcase what you want for, you know, a nice preferable playstyle, since this is games that were arcade and arcade-like back in the day. So of course people won't have the time to do the usual arcade stuff and play through the entire game. People want to skip stuff, people want to make it a little more easier on themselves, so it's honestly pretty useful, especially when you're trying to make a video and getting the exact footage you want. Of course the options vary within each game, but the main features that you usually see for all the games featured are a level select, a way to gain extra lives, how many points you want in order to gain that extra life and such, and of course how many lives you want to start off with in general. And yes, those are pretty useful for playing an arcade game on a modern console. Alright, we're doing pretty good so far with this collection, so yeah, naturally, since we finished Pac-Man, let's go on to the next game chronologically within this collection, if you avoid certain legal shenanigans. Of course, it is Super Pac-Man. That's Pac-mania. That released a while after Pac-Man. Okay, I'm pretty sure Super Pac-Man's in this collection, but Pac and Pal, but go back to 87 and then 83 and then Pac-land. What's happening here? There is Super Pac-Man. What? Yeah, for some odd reason, the games are not really in chronological order. I guessing maybe Namco wanted to make sense of all these games, and for a newcomer, this is the optimal way of experiencing these games all at once. Maybe. But I don't really see how that is, but oh well, that's let's go along with Namco's game and continue on with Pac-Mania, I guess. Pac-Mania was released in 1987, and this time instead of a, I guess, bird's eye view like in the original Pac-Man, this time it is actually a more of a third's eye view, you could say. And I know that seems a bit off-putting to a lot of hardcore Pac-Man fans because, you know, you want to see the whole maze, you want to see where all the dots are, where all the ghosts are. But here's the thing, in this game, you're not only going to be dealing with the 4 ghosts from before. This time, the ghost total can go up to 7 ghosts. Just imagine how that looks like in a bird's eye view. That is horrifying. But to help out with your escapade through these 7 ghosts, you actually have a jump button this time around. But don't be trying to abuse it all the way throughout your playthrough, just jumping through all the ghosts, jumping over the ghosts. Because there's a sense of, I guess, momentum involved with these jumps, so you need to be careful when you jump because you might actually land into a ghost while you try to avoid another ghost. Yeah. Even though you technically are handicapped with the third's eye view, even though it is scary if you go back to the bird's eye view here, it is actually pretty cool when you really think about it because it feels more like a grand scale adventure with this way because you not only have this, but the little warp tunnels that transport you from one side of the maze to another are actually connected via this cool 2-tunnel structure, I guess. And it kind of makes you seem like you're going through a gigantic maze, which I love. I don't know, it's honestly pretty cool. And I feel like that might be the main point of this game. Namco really wants to impress you with all these new additions to Pac-Man. Whoa, it's all 3D kinda. Whoa, you got a jump button. Whoa, there's 7 ghosts you have to deal with. Whoa, you even got a power-up that allows you to go super fast at times. Whoa, the maze looks like it's gigantic. And whoa, the soundtrack can be pretty awesome sometimes. Man, did that sound cool? I'm scared that I messed that word up just now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you heard some of the music from this game somewhere in the past. Whether that be Blockdown or the also popular Pac-Man's Park, which is popularized by the many remixes that Ghostly Adventures had. Seriously, people may have different opinions on that show, but at least we could all agree that the remixes of Pac-Man's Park in that show are spectacular. Next up is by far the weirdest game within the entirety of the Pac-Man franchise in general. Well, at least maybe the maze games, I guess. And that being, of course, Pac and Pal. This is very different from your usual Pac-Man. Instead of collecting dots throughout the maze, you're instead collecting all the fruit within it. And they're all locked behind these doors that need to be unlocked via these cards that are specific to each door. But be careful, once you unlock those doors, Miwa will come in and actually steal the fruit and bring it to the ghost house. And apparently she's considered your friend. But I believe that ain't the weirdest part about this game because as you can see from the maze here, there ain't no power pellet. So what do you do to defend yourself against the ghost? Well, of course, you got these item pieces such as Galaga pieces. Galaxian, my bad. I'm not really so familiar with the Galaxian lore as much as the, the Pac-Man lore, but yeah, as you could see, once you collect it, you actually gain the powers of the ray beam from that game, which is pretty cool. But after that, a few stages in, you actually get access to this Rally X item. It's a car. Hey, it's great to have some cool Namco references within your Pac-Man games. It's always great when Namco does that. And for this one, it's more jarring since once you, I guess, gobble it up, of course you turn blue just like the Galaga piece, but this time, Pac-Man coughs smoke and use it to blind the ghosts. That's a very interesting ability. It is I, the villainous interrupter, who has finally stolen all the fruit from each and every household within this area. And there is nothing you can do to stop me. What is this? Oh, my eye. Ah, my eye. Ah, my eye. Ah. Oh. Must have been something I ate this morning. Ugh. I kind of feel like the best way to describe it is hard to understand, pretty easy to master, because once you get the hang of how different this is to usual Pac-Man, you're honestly gonna have a very pleasant experience. And I kind of consider this one of the more relaxing games in the franchise because this doesn't speed up as often or as noticeable as the usual Pac-Man maze games. Which yeah, if you want a game where you want to chill back and relax and all that jazz with a Pac-Man game, this is the game for you once you, of course, again, master the rules of this game. Next up on the list is Pac-land. And you may think this is actually some sort of tie-in to the Hanna-Barbera cartoon since of course Pac-Man has his signature hat and of course the music theme from that TV show plays within this game. But no, apparently according to the developers, this is just a game that's just inspired by it, which is pretty interesting, and it just became a tie-in later on once it reaches American territories. And I do really appreciate the art style of this game. Yeah, sure, some people may think of it as some sort of MS Paint project. That's the usual comparison that's made with this, but I kind of find it very charming how they were trying to replicate a cartoony style within pixel art. And they did a pretty decent job, even though they clearly need to add some actual shadows and shades to it to make it more, how to say this? Not like MS Paint. But hey, you gotta appreciate the sprite work, especially with the ghosts. I love all the different contraptions they have to try to stop Pac-Man in his tracks. You got them riding on cars as well as double-decker buses. I love the fact that they have pogo sticks just bouncing around trying to, I guess, stomp Pac-Man with. They have the UFOs and stuff, and also times where they're just up in the air and they're throwing small versions of themselves. That should weird me out a bit more, but yeah, I'm kind of numb to it since my arch nemesis, the Interrupter, did something similar to me a while back. Oh god! What? But of course, what kind of game is this? I haven't actually explained that. Well, of course, in case you guys don't know, this is actually a 2D platformer. Surprisingly, one before those type of games became very popular later on in the 80s. So yeah, this is a pretty cool piece of history. And yeah, it functions as a 2D platformer should. You got a jump button and you also got a run button. Well, technically a run button, you don't actually press a button. Instead, you gotta double tap the directional keys 2 times in order to activate it, which is a bit of a weird control scheme, but what are you gonna do? Oh, the one thing you gotta keep in mind is Pac-Man's weight, because I think they took Pac-Man's eating habits a little bit too seriously, and he kind of feels like he weighs a ton, because if you just jump regularly without, pressing anything with the control stick, within some of these stages, you got a pool of water that you have to technically jump across using these ramps that allow you to jump further distance. But in order to make sure it works properly, you gotta technically double tap the directional pads multiple times until you reach the end of the pool. So yeah, that can be a bit tiring with a control stick. So yeah, it's better to use a D-pad once you can, when you can. Unfortunately, this is the Xbox 360 controller, so the only thing close to a D-pad is, yeah. Let's try it out. The pain. Oh god. So yeah, that's how it's done. And yeah, this is a really fun game to go through. And I kind of feel like it's a very creative one as well, because the main plot of this game, yes, there's a plot to this game, where Pac-Man has to actually take this fairy known as Buttercup back to her home at Fairy World. And then once you do that, you gotta go back to your house via repeating the same levels, this time in reverse. But this time, thanks to the Mother Fairy, you're granted these cool wing-like boots that allow you to jump infinitely, making it a very fun way to go back to your house. It's honestly pretty cool. So yeah, this game is a pretty decent platformer, a game which could potentially been the inspiration to Miyamoto's Super Mario Bros. I mean, it is confirmed that he is a Pac-Man fan after all, and clearly there's a lot of similarities. You, of course, even got a time limit as well as a way to block you from going to the left side of the screen with Sue over here. So yeah, all I can say for this little section is that respect your elders, Super Smash Bros. Players. Finally, we're moving on to the last of the retro arcade Pac-Man classics, and the one that we technically should have gone through after the original Pac-Man way back in the video, if you ignore certain, which we'll get into later. This is Super Pac-Man. So Super Pac-Man is essentially a predecessor to Pac-Pal since this was released before, but it has a lot of differences. Of course, you still have the basic structure of having to eat all the fruit within the maze to finish it, and you have to gain access to them using these doors that are unlocked using keys this time around. But besides that, unlike Pac-Pal where it's a bit difficult to understand but easy to master, here though, it's easier to understand but a little bit more difficult to master. One thing you may know is that it looks more like original Pac-Man than Pac-Pal. You got the warp tunnels back. Of course, the fruit are more laid out like the dots were back in the original. And you got a little bonus fruit in the middle of the maze. But it's not technically a bonus fruit. Yeah, sure, fruits are involved, but this time it's more like a slot machine in a way, because once you time it correctly, you're able to match the fruit with the corresponding fruit, and you'll get some pretty mad points, and that's pretty satisfying to pull off. We even got the power pellets back, which function as they should. You eat it, you're able to eat the ghost. But this time around, you get a brand new pellet to gain access to certain abilities, which is the super pellet that allows you to become big and allows you to fly above ghosts, allowing you to be invincible to them, and you can bust through doors without a need of a key, which is pretty satisfying. And most importantly, the big feature is when you press a particular button on the controller, you'll gain super speed. And yeah, it can be pretty fun, but this is where the whole mentality of easy to understand, difficult to master comes into play, because it's really fast. So you gotta be very careful where you are on the maze, because you might accidentally run out of your abilities and just ran into a ghost prematurely, or the more likely scenario where oh my everything. Daniel? Hey Daniel, are you awake? Daniel? Well, I mean, if you're able to master the controls of this game, aka being more capable of avoiding walls easier, then you're gonna have a very satisfying time with this video game. Anyways, see you guys then, once Daniel awakes.